Good evening. Excuse me. Yeah. Hello. This is Chris again with Just a Suggestion. I'd like to apologize for the abrupt ending of last week's Just a Suggestion. It was after a little. Anyway, Ryan, the cameraman, is okay. You're okay, Ryan?
Yeah.
No hard feelings.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. I did lose my hand, but I think I think after talking to some doctors, they'll be able to reattach it. But anyhow, this week I'm going to be talking about vampires. Is it bright in here? Are these lights? Do you think these lights are kind of bright, Brian?
Not really.
Here. Much better. Okay. Now, it all started with this book right here, Dracula by Bram Stoker. You could almost say that vampires have infested our civilization. Anywho, this was the book based on the original historical inspiration for Dracula. Was in fact a fellow by the name of Vlad the Impaler who did some really horrific things that probably the less said about the better. But there are so many books about vampires right now and throughout the years. There's an amazing story called The Passage, which is the first book of a trilogy, and this is, as a matter of fact, the only book I can think of where they sold the movie rights before the book was published. That's how incredible this story is. Anyway, fantastic story. The character development, unbelievable. There's also another trilogy written by Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan with vampires. In this series, the vampires are first discovered on an airplane. Then we've also got Lou K. Hamilton, The Vampire Hunter series. Got that. Got, of course, Anne Rice and the Interview with the Vampire series, The Vampire Lestat. And here's an interesting take on vampires by Richard Matheson. You may recall a movie called I Am Legend, which was recently, past few years anyhow, made by Will Smith.
With Will Smith.
With Will Smith. In this story, now, it was not the original take on this movie take on this book, by the way. I believe the original was what's that guy's name? You know who I'm talking about?
Sure.
Thanks. Vincent Price. Starring Vincent Price, called The Last Man on Earth.
Of course.
In this story, vampirism is a disease, I believe, and everyone in the world has got it except for one person. Interesting look at. Anywho, we've got The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova, which is a wonderful story which does involve Dracula. And of course, we've got the True Blood series by Charlaine Harris. We've got, not sure I recognize this book, but okay. The Twilight series, of course.
Your favorite books?
My favorite books. And that has even affected the calendar world. And of course we have got some bookmarks and all that. That would be sparkly vampires right there.
The worst kind.
I don't know that it's called those the worst kind, but. And then we've got our supernatural romance, like the novels of the Black Dagger Brotherhood by J.R. Ward. And we've got these, Dark Celebration by Feehan. Sands has written some vampire novels. Christine Warren has written some vampire stuff. And then we have what may be a bit more adult-themed books.
So what's that?
Bloodsuckers.
What's that one about, Chris?
This is about vampires who are, as you can see, they appear to be just gorgeous, beautiful women. You know, as opposed to the dashing older fella. And then you may be I don't know if you're familiar at all with books by Terry Pratchett. In my opinion, this is the most terrifying book he has ever written, called Carpe Jugulum, which I believe is Latin for go for the throat, which is the story of vampires.
It's not go for the carp?
Not go for the carp. Nice. And then we've got some books for some young adults. You know, the Cast series. And then we've got here The Vampire Diaries. And we've also got, this has been made into part of the series. The Cirque du Freak series has been made into a movie, Vampire's Assistant. And there are also some humorous books with vampires. For instance, here's a parody of Twilight called Nightlight. And even Christopher Moore has gotten in on the act with this book, You Suck, which is the story of someone who becomes a vampire accidentally and trying to figure out how to work their undead life into vampirism. And we've even got some books for the kiddies. Fear Street.
R.L. Stine.
R.L. Stine. How to be a Vampire. And then, of course, we have the famous Bunnicula, the vampiric rabbit. Or is he or isn't he a vampire? That's the main question in these books. And then here's a book that most people do not think of as being about a vampire, but all I have to say is, why was the caterpillar so very hungry? Just ask yourself. I think Eric Carle was hiding something. Okay. That's it for the just a suggestion for the book part this week. Now on to the trivia question. Last week's question dealt with zombies and what is generally considered to be the very first zombie movie ever, Night of the Living Dead. The question was, why was the word zombie not used in the movie, and why was the word zombie not used in the marketing of the movie? And the answer to the question is because at that time the only meaning that the word zombie had was the voodoo slave that was created in Haiti. It came to mean undead shortly after this movie was released, because I believe when it was released in another country, in a foreign language, it was released under the title Zombie. There you go. And this week's trivia question, here we go. What famous vampire movie was actually an unofficial retelling of the Dracula story, but they couldn't use the same names because they didn't get the rights to the book Dracula? If you know the answer to that, come on. Oh, ow. I felt something sharp there. Yikes. Anyway, if you know the answer to that question, come on down to Downtown Books and Coffee here in Auburn, New York, and answer it for us, and we'll give you a percentage off of a book. Come on, hope to see you this week. Ron, you're looking kind of... Come over here. I just want to...